So you just got a new camera for Christmas and you're wondering what accessories you need? Let's talk about how you can spend that Christmas cash on things for your camera. Well, hey, what's up? My name is Tony and I'm a filmmaker photographer in the St. Louis area. Glad to have you with us. Today we're talking about camera accessories. Now, if you are a pro or veteran photographer, chances are you're gonna know a lot of these things, but this video is specifically for you who just got a new camera this Christmas and you'd like to just spend a little bit more to kind of maximize this new toy that you got. Now, if you got a camera that was made in the past 2 or 3 years, you have a very capable camera. They handle low light very well. They typically do really good video, and you can really push these cameras to the limits thanks to the technology that we've seen just in the past 5 years when it comes to camera technology. So what I want to do is just give you a couple accessories that will help you maximize your camera in 2022 as you get familiar with your new camera. All right, so let's talk about it. The first thing that I want to discuss is some of the things that are essential for you to use your camera. We're talking about memory cards and batteries. Now, just to let you know, I personally use Extreme Pro memory cards. We've got SDs, and a really nice thing to include with an SD card is this Pelican case. This keeps it nice and organized. Chances are you're gonna end up with multiple SD cards. That's just the way that it works. You're gonna need to expand your SDs, and you're gonna have to expand your memory, and you're gonna be using one memory card and the other one it gets full. So it's always good to have a case with your memory cards. Like I said, I use Extreme Pro. If you are just gonna be taking photos, probably 64 gigs is about right. But if you're gonna get into video, I would suggest either 128 or even 256 if you're gonna be doing a lot of 4K video. Before we move on from SD cards, make sure that you pick up some sort of a card reader. This is an Anker 7-in-1. It's got USB ports, it's got USB-C ports, it's got an SD card, it's got a micro SD card reader, and it all just plugs into either my iPad or my computer, depending on what I want to do. What's crazy is a lot of the new iPads, if you've got an iPad Pro, if you've got an iPad Air, an iPad Mini, any with the USB-C, they're gonna be able to handle editing your photos, downloading them, organizing them, all of that right in your iPad, and you're not even gonna need a computer. So make sure to check that out. Now, when it comes to batteries, I would highly suggest using a battery that comes from your camera manufacturer. If you bought a Canon, make sure to use Canon batteries. There's third-party cheap ones on Amazon. They just don't last. They're not reliable. Sometimes the camera doesn't even read them, and it's just gonna save you a lot of headache. I know that they're more expensive, but the OEM batteries are much better. What I can suggest you upgrading to is a different battery charger. Now, this is a cheap one that I found on Amazon. It charges 2 at once, and what's really cool is this one is actually a USB powered one, so I can use this with a battery pack and charge on the go. It makes it very convenient, and it's much smaller and charges 2 at once. Then you know that you've got reliable power and you can charge your batteries wherever you're at. Okay, so now that we've talked about the essentials like batteries and SD cards, let's talk about some support for your camera. Probably the biggest thing is a camera bag. This is something that's gonna keep all of your stuff together and protected. Now, I'm a really big fan of Peak Design, but there's other brands that are really good, like Low Pro. Another one, honestly, is Amazon Basics. You'd be surprised at some good bags from Amazon Basics that work just fine. And like, if you're just getting started, this is your first camera, don't go spend $400 on a camera bag. That's ridiculous. Look at some Amazon Basic ones. I'll leave a couple links in the description of some of the ones that I think are really beneficial. The other thing when it comes to support, some people like me like to use a camera clutch. And what that is this thing right here. Now, this is a Peak Design clutch. Like I said, they make all sorts of brands, and I'll leave a description of this particular one in the description so that you can see what I use. I like that because it just gives me a little bit more support, but it's not like clinging off me like a strap would do. But if you're into straps, those are also another option that are really nice. Now, I like this Peak Design one because it has these little clips that just clip right into the camera, and then you don't have to worry about the strap dangling around and spending 15 minutes releasing that strap when you don't want it on there. Straps are really nice. Another thing that we can talk about when it comes to support is a clip of some sort. Now, once again, I'm a pretty big Peak Design fan. Their stuff is really reliable. I put a capture clip on the bottom of this, and then it clips right to my belt with their capture unit. And so that's an option. There's all sorts of different capture clip type of things. The thing that I like about the Peak Design one is I bought an older version that actually has a tripod mount right on the clip. So if I don't want it on my hip and I want it on a tripod, I can just screw that capture plate right onto my tripod. Another way to get around this is there's a lot of plates that work with tripods. The Peak Design one is an Arca Swiss. These are all things that you may end up learning, but a lot of the tripods use Arca Swiss mounts, so you don't have to worry about moving things around. Now, when it comes to lenses, you can spend as much money as you want, but if you're just getting started out, if your camera came with a lens, say it's a kit lens, an 18 to 55, 70 to 300, whatever your kit is, I would highly suggest writing that lens out until you figure out how to maximize that lens. I know that's kind of countercultural to what you've probably heard, but if you can push that kit lens to the limit, I promise you, you can get some really cool photos and video out of that camera. Now, if you just really want to spend money, what I would suggest is getting the nifty 50, the 50mm f1.8. These are really cheap. If you have an EF camera, that's like $100. You can find one super cheap. If you've got the R series cameras with the RF mount, the RF 50mm f1.8, which is what we're shooting on right now, is only $200, and that is a really good option. There is some other options that are fairly cheap. I would stay away from the RF 24 to 105 f4 to 7. That's a kind of appealing lens, but it's not a great lens. And I'd suggest that you kind of wait and save your money and figure out exactly which one you're gonna want in the future and skip over that 24 to 105 kit lens. But there's also the 16mm that came out, the 35mm that's pretty cheap. We've got some options that are pretty cheap in the RF lineup. That's if you have an EOS R, EOS RP, an R6, R5, R3. All of these are really good lenses that are coming out, and you can find some cheap options that you don't really need the adapter for. Now, if you've got an EF, there's plenty of glass there, and I would just not buy anything new. I would look at Marketplace, I would look at eBay. Canon makes really incredibly good, reliable glass, so I wouldn't worry about you buying a used lens, but don't buy a brand new EF lens because they're kind of on their way out right now. So that's my thoughts. Now let's talk about video real quick. This is a little bit different of a kit that you need than photo. The biggest thing is you're gonna want good audio. Now there's a couple really cheap options that I think are really good, and these are just on-camera mics. You never wanna just hit record and let that microphone in your camera record audio. You're gonna hear wind, it's just not gonna sound great. These are two options that I suggest for you. The first one is like $60, it's the Rode Video Micro. Don't buy any other mic from Rode for that little shotgun. This one is perfect. Don't spend the extra money. The Rode Video Micro. It's like $59, goes right on your camera, comes with a cable, comes with a wind dampener. It's also called a dead cat, and that is just an incredible good mic for if you're talking to the camera or if you're just capturing ambient audio. It's gonna really step up the audio in your camera. The other microphone that I would suggest is the Deity D2 Duo microphone. And the thing that's really cool about this one is it has two microphones on it, one facing the camera and one facing away from the camera. And so that way you're gonna get audio from both sides of your camera that are gonna sound really good. Also includes the wind dampeners, all of those kind of things. So you're gonna be good to go. Now, another option, these are about $300, is the Rode Wireless Go 2. And those are just tiny little wireless microphones that you can clip on a shirt or you can clip on whatever and get really good audio that sends it straight to your camera. So it doesn't matter how far away your camera is, you're gonna get good audio with those. That's another option. The other thing with video that I would suggest is a tripod or, and don't get anything fancy. If you're just getting started out, look at some Manfrotto B-Frees. Those are like 150 bucks. The Peak Design one is way expensive, but it's pretty good for photo, not great for video, but there's tons of options out there when it comes to tripods. I'd suggest getting in that kind of middle of a range, around $100, and you're gonna get a really good tripod that will last you a long time and not break the bank. Also, another thing that you can look for is some constant lighting. The Aperture MCs are incredible. They're full spectrum. They also do complete color. So like this light right there is an Aperture MC with that really yellow. I've got another one right over here that's really teal. You can make them pink or purple, whatever you want, but I use these as accents. I also use them for lighting my face if I've got it on the camera. So lots of options with lighting, and that will kind of help you step up your lighting game when it comes to flexibility. They're only like again, 90, 100 bucks. So lots of options here. These are just some of the things that I would suggest for you. Think through the basics, audio, lighting, and then your visuals. Think through the essentials. If you've got any questions about some gear that you might be looking at, leave it in the description below. If you are a veteran photographer, what is it that I missed that you cannot live without? What is it that I said that I said you really need and I forgot to mention? All right, enjoy your new journey with your camera. I'm telling you, this is just a fun ride, and it's a little bit of an addiction when it comes to gear. You can find all sorts of really great things to kind of step up your camera game. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. We do all sorts of tutorials. We do camera gear reviews. I do some lifestyle behind the scenes kind of things, and I've got just a flair of adventure in my personal life. So I would love for you to join us, and I will see you guys all in that next video. See you soon.